China's economy isn't crashing. Factories are still running. Cities are still functioning. Growth hasn't disappeared. But something important has changed. The slowdown that policymakers once described as temporary is starting to show real costs, not just in headline growth numbers, but in the trade-offs China now has to make to keep the system moving. Because slowing growth doesn't just mean less output. It means less room to maneuver. When an economy this large decelerates, pressure builds quietly. Local governments struggle to fund obligations. Businesses delay investment. Households become cautious. And the tools that once delivered fast growth become less effective over time. In this video, we're not talking about collapse or crisis predictions. We're breaking down how China's economic slowdown is translating into real costs, and why those costs matter for China's future stability and global impact. Once you understand where the pressure is building, the slowdown looks very different. For 4 decades, the world had one constant: China's unstoppable rise. It was the engine of global growth, a manufacturing behemoth that seemed to defy the laws of economic gravity. But as we close out 2025, that engine isn't just sputtering, it's stalling. While Beijing officially claims a 5% growth rate for the year, independent analysts and think tanks like Rhodium Group are whispering a much darker number, below 3%. But the real story isn't in the GDP percentages. It's in the streets of Shenzhen, the ghost malls of Tianjin, and the bank accounts of 1.4 billion people. From a record 21% youth unemployment to a property crisis that has officially entered its 5th year of contraction, the costs of the miracle are finally being called in. Tonight, we're going beyond the headlines. We're looking at the quiet social decay, the lying flat movement, and the desperate 160 trillion yuan cash pile that Chinese citizens are refusing to spend. The Chinese dream is being replaced by a great stagnation, and the consequences will shake the world. To understand why China is slowing, you have to understand its addiction. For 20 years, real estate was the drug that fueled China's growth, accounting for a staggering 25% of its entire GDP. But in 2025, that sector will enter rigor mortis. New data from November shows that real estate investment has plummeted by nearly 16% year-on-year. The names that once terrified global markets, Evergrande, Country Garden, have been replaced by a new tier of crisis. Even state-backed giants like Vanke are now begging for debt extensions. The cost here isn't just corporate debt. It's a negative wealth effect. In the West, people keep their wealth in stocks. In China, 70% of household wealth is locked in brick and mortar. As home prices continue their 5-year slide, the average Chinese family feels poorer every single day. Why would you buy a new car or a luxury watch when the apartment you spent your life savings on is now worth 20% less than you paid for it? This is the property trap, and Beijing has found no way out. Perhaps the most dangerous cost of the slowdown is the one being paid by the youth. In December 2025, the youth unemployment rate remained stuck near 21%. For decades, the social contract in China was simple: give up your political freedoms, and in exchange, we will give you a better life than your parents. But for the class of 2025, that contract has been shredded. Millions of highly educated graduates are finding that the high-paying tech jobs they were promised have vanished. Instead, they are faced with involution, Najuan, a state of hyper-competition for dwindling rewards. The result? A social phenomenon called lying flat, Tangping, and let it rot, Bailon. When the cost of success becomes impossible, the youth simply stop trying. They aren't getting married. They aren't having children. China's birth rate has hit a historic low, creating a demographic time bomb that will ensure this slowdown lasts for decades, not years. Beijing is trying to pivot. They are pouring billions into new quality productive forces, EVs, lithium batteries, and green tech. They want to export their way out of the crisis. But there's a problem. The rest of the world is closing its doors. With a potential tariff war 2.0 looming in 2026, China's massive trade surplus is becoming a geopolitical target. This forces China back to its biggest weakness: domestic consumption. The Chinese people are sitting on a record 160 trillion yuan in savings. That is enough money to jumpstart the global economy twice over. But they won't spend it. Why? Because China lacks a social safety net. When the economy slows, people don't go out and shop. They hoard cash for healthcare, for their aging parents, and for an uncertain future. Beijing has moved to a moderately loose monetary policy for 2026, the first time since 2009, but you can force people to spend money if they are terrified of tomorrow.